I would like to announce that a quorum is present, the meeting is duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. In order to limit attendance at public gatherings, a limited number of staff members will be in attendance in person at this evening's board meeting. The majority of our leadership team will be attending virtually via WebEx. The following board members are in attendance in person: Tracy Miller, Allison Lasan, Angie Cox, Christy Hassett, Jenny Prosnick, and Catherine Sells. We will now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071, 072, and 074. The time is currently 6:04 p.m.
Test.
We will now reconvene into open session. The time is 7 p.m. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Welcome to all. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation 10 days in advance of these regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions. In addition, the board also meets in regularly scheduled workshops and work sessions where staff discussions and presentations are given for many of the agenda items. This protocol means lengthy discussion or a litany of questions on every agenda item often is not necessary. And as a board, we should have appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of our meeting tonight. A few reminders for the staff attending via WebEx this evening. Please keep your microphone muted. If you are called upon to speak or would like to make a comment, please unmute your microphone before speaking, and when you are finished speaking, please turn off your microphone. First up is to consider action on items discussed in closed session. Would somebody like to make a motion on the first? Ms. Cox?
I move that the board approve all personnel recommendations as presented by administration.
Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett, I saw your hand. Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0. Would somebody like to make a motion on the next agenda item?
I will.
Okay, Ms. Hassett.
I move that the board approve Mrs. Chandra Dockery as principal of DeLay Middle School as recommended by administration and a personnel selection committee.
Do I have a second on that? Ms. Prosnick, thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries 6-0.
And Ms. Sells, we are happy to welcome Sharday. Sharday, wave at everyone. It's great to see you, and we are just so excited to have you lead DeLay Middle School. So,
I'd also like to apologize for mispronouncing your name. So sorry.
So, Sharday, anyone you want to introduce or just tell us a little bit about yourself? We just want to certainly get to know you personally.
Of course. I am actually here with my sister.
Hi there.
This is my older sister. My younger brother is not here, so I'm the middle child. That may tell you a little bit about me. No, I'm just happy to be a part of the LISD family. As I spoke with Dr. Rogers and Dr. Rapp, just the overall culture, the family culture that the district exudes. I live within the district, so I love my neighborhood. And I know that I'll fall in love with DeLay Nation, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I am so blessed that I get to be the principal of DeLay Middle School.
Well, we are happy to welcome you, so thanks, Sharday.
Yes, welcome. Yay.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your evening. Please don't feel like you have to hang on.
Yes.
Oh,
We look forward
my
to
nephew's
meeting you
running
in
around,
person.
so I'm going to go catch him.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. After our last regular meeting, longtime board member Kronda Timish announced that she was stepping down from the board to focus on her campaign for House Representative. I want to take a moment to thank Mrs. Timish for her service, her leadership, and her tireless advocacy for not only the students of LISD, but for public schools across our state. She was a great board member and will continue to be a voice for our communities even as her service on the board ends. The board looks forward to the May 2021 elections to see who LISD voters will select for place one. Now on to Dr. Rogers for an update.
Thank you, Ms. Sells. So as they bring that up, it can't be overstated that our staff is constantly being faced with the creation of entirely new systems with very little time to get them off the ground. So what they have accomplished and continue to accomplish really has just been amazing. And so I know y'all are very appreciative of their work, as am I. Additionally, our school chiefs, our principals, when you think about not only implementing these new systems, but also having to communicate those systems, and none of that gets to occur in person, so it makes it even a little more difficult. So just tremendous work in every department. I also wanted to make note, as I know the board does, is that we do have a special board meeting on July 8th to discuss sort of what did we learn during that time period, and what are we planning for and look forward to as we get ready for the start of the next school year, so July 8th. So looking at, I want to make sure it's on. You know, there's several things, of course, going on. Summer school, as you can see, we have our early childhood summer school with 316 students enrolled. This summer school actually are serving our rising kindergartners and first graders, and we focus on developing greater proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And so that's a really great program. We also have our special ed program, which is called Extended School Year. We have 361 students in ESY participating virtually. And, of course, they're focusing on continuity plans consisting of social skills, academic IEPs, functional skills, communication skills, speech therapy, PT, OT, you name it, our special ed folks are providing it. Our secondary summer school, as normal, is serving 252 students. We normally serve about 300 students every summer in grades 6 through 12, so that's close to. And we have changed the program in that all those grades are using what we call the APEX system, which is online curriculum for students. And so they're doing a great job. And then, of course, the program that y'all have heard a lot about, SOAR and Sheltered English 3, we are supporting those secondary English language learners, and there's 45 of those students enrolled. Okay, you can click it because it won't. In technology, of course, as we all know, our technology group always has a lot of typical summer work, but they're also they have recently submitted an application. We were happy to hear that Sprint 1 Million project has actually expanded to kinder through 12, so that's a great thing versus it's in the past just served grades 9 through 12. So we quickly submitted our application for that. We are also reviewing other options for at-home broadband access. As we know, that's really one of the major barriers for our students, is that some do not have access that they need. We are also continue to use our WebEx access because there are teachers, those teaching summer school, our coaches, advisors that are still keeping up with their students, their athletes, their band members, so on during the summer months. And then we are installing replacement access points where we actually took Wi-Fi access to create our exterior Wi-Fi access at 24 campuses, so we're having to replace where we robbed those temporarily, so they, of course, have that project to do. Counseling and social work, and I know so many of our board members are very involved and want to make sure that we're taking care of the social, emotional needs of our students too. And our Department of Counseling and Social Work has just done a great job really trying to focus on what reentry looks like for our students and staff. We were recently selected as one of only 3 school districts in Region 10 and 11, so that's a lot of school districts to be one of 3 to work on a collaborative effort for mental health framework for the start of school. We are expanding our second step curriculum to more elementary school pilot schools and adding middle school pilot schools for second step. Our student assistance counselors, which also graciously funded several years ago, are writing education pieces for staff regarding trauma-informed classrooms. We know that so many students in times like this experience some type of trauma. And then we are actually, they have created mental health awareness training for all of our new hires as a part of their work. Our district social workers continue to do incredible things with our community partners to fill the gaps for our families. As you know, we have 14 of our own feeding sites, but those feeding sites are also, facilitated by groups like Love Packs, Food for Kids, and others, CCA, Salvation Army, United Way, and a lot of Denton County Rotaries are helping provide rent and utility assistance for our families. The Sparrow Collective has created a referral system for LISD families. And then, of course, we continue to receive donations from individuals and companies that is being funneled through our Lewisville Education Foundation to provide some basic needs for families that are impacted by COVID-19. So we're very appreciative of all these community partners that we have. So across LISD, of course, Dr. Rapp, all our chief executive directors and our school chiefs are launching task forces to address contingency planning for this next school year, as we talked about. So let me just give you a little idea of what these task forces look like. I mean, there's task forces to look at what is typical school going to look like with modifications as far as safety and health modifications that are going to be required. That's one of the task force, and of course we're looking at it 3 different ways: elementary school, middle school, high school, because it could look different for an elementary school level than it would for a high school level. So we have 3 groups working on those types of things. We have a task force that's looking at what's a hybrid model looking, where not all the students are in the building at the same time because of space and safety, health safety precautions. We can't have all 22 students or 25 students in a secondary school in the classroom. Of course, that also will involve transportation and other types of things. We certainly are looking at what would a virtual program look like, taking what we learned the last 9 weeks of the school year and yet improving on what can we do better. And so there's a group working on that. There's also a separate group headed by Mr. Crownover and Sheila Smith in Employee Services looking at what are all the employee service issues and considerations that we need to take into account. A lot of rules change with, CARES Act and different things that we have to implement. Communication considerations, calendar considerations. You'll be happy to know Dr. Miller and Dr. Fitzhugh have a wonderful program that they can actually put all different types of calendars in front of you and manipulate the systems and show what a calendar could look like if we had an outbreak and had to close for a 2-week period at a certain time, then what would happen for the rest of the school year. And then Dr. Miller and Dr. Fitzhugh actually shared the initial work of our family survey that we plan to put out late June or the very 1st of July, just to gather information from our families as far as what are their intents at that time to what the start of school might look like for those families. And so we need to gather that information. So I'm really proud that a lot of the membership of these task forces not only comprise of campus principals and assistant principals and teachers, but these folks are actually doing a lot of this work off contract. I mean, most of this group, of course, teachers are already off contract. Assistant principals, I think, go off contract this week. Principals go, most principals except high school principals go off contract next week. So yet these folks have volunteered to be as part of these task forces. Some other things going on across LISD. Of course, we are absolutely accounting for what expenditures we've had related to COVID-19. We certainly expect to submit that for reimbursement at 75%. That grant has not been released and it won't be until mid-July, but we've actually been meeting on that. We have Dr. Courtney Hart that's sort of spearheading that effort. Of course, we continue to do great work. Our food service, child nutrition folks continue to do great work. Last week, they served nearly 30,000 meals during the week, so the total for the last 11 weeks is 466,000 plus meals that we've served to students and children in our school district. We've reopened this building, and we've reopened the Welcome Center. We've reopened our high schools, and part of the reason was that we needed to start to work on protocols on what we need to do as we started to phase in reopening. And so this reopening also allows for testing protocols to be developed for tests that we need to give to our English language learners in person, tests that we need to conduct in person to our special ed students when doing their evaluation. So we're learning a lot in this middle of the summer that will help us as we get started next school year. And then as of today, actually, UIL started back up. They allowed us beginning June 8th to start having strength and conditioning work for our athletes, and also sports-specific work for our athletes, and also band practice for our band members. And so that started today. As you can imagine, there was an extreme amount of planning that took place well before that by Mr. Kaj, Coach Ford, and Ms. Drinkwater. And so every word that I got from today is that really things went well. We will continue to monitor that. I do need to make it clear that this participation by students, by band members, by student athletes is totally voluntary. It's not required. It's just totally voluntary. But anyway, some great work. We also, as a part of that, we have to track attendance, and it's mandatory that we track attendance, because if there is an outbreak or situation, then we need to know who was there on that day and so on. So, and then, of course, there's great work being to sanitize all the equipment between all the efforts, and then, of course, continue to social distance. So that means there's limited number of students per coach spread out, and it is different for those sports that are outside versus inside. And so we greatly appreciate the work of all of our folks on that. So I think, I can't get it to switch, but I think, is that it? Okay, so I don't know if you have any questions. I'll certainly be more than happy to try to answer them or punt them to someone who can.
Ms. Cox?
Just a clarification question. So the temperature checks, how is that going to be facilitated?
Yeah, and Dr. Rapp, can you answer that? But I know that they do take temperature checks at the very first. Is that?
Yes, so they have the infrared thermometer just to take the temperature check really quickly.
For the
Melanie
same way that
Vincelet's worked with them on that protocol.
Right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions? Mr. Miller?
So what, I know it just opened up, but so what does that look like if a student has a temperature of a certain, is the student just sent home? Is there another protocol that we implement?
I believe that first off, we ask the student to wait 5 minutes and we retake the temperature just to make sure it's not a malfunction of the thermometer, or, but then after that, yes, they would be sent home. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that. And staff too. We're taking temperature of staff too. So it's not just students.
Well, I just would say, and I know we got a lot to cover, but thank you to our staff. I know that a lot of people are working hard, still at home, still in video. We're trying to social distance here. Hey, Rocky. And so, you know, we're, I think, all very grateful for the hard work you guys are doing out in the field and in central administration. So keep up the good work, and we're gonna get through this together.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for those last words, too. We will get through this, and already I'm shocked at how much time has gone by, and thankful for the work that our staff and our community has done. So, persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees were given the opportunity to submit comments via LISD's website during the designated time frame. Any comments submitted will be read into the record at this time. Comments cannot exceed 3 minutes. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda. We have 5 comments. The first comment was from Nikki Allen regarding reopening ISD pools to club swimming. Dear Dr. Rogers and board members, my name is Nikki Allen. I have 2 sons that attend Lewisville High School and swim on the high school swim team. One of my sons is also a club swimmer and on the national prep team for Lakeside Aquatic Club. Today I would like to talk to you about the availability and access to the Lewisville ISD natatoriums to club swimming teams. School districts around the state own and operate swimming pools that are rented out to club teams. USA swimming teams rely on these pools to train the next generation of Olympic athletes. Currently, school districts in Texas are only opening up for athletes in their district, and club teams have been left floundering out of the water. Right now, Texas school districts are claiming that the Texas Education Agency is preventing them from opening their pools to club teams. This is not true. Per the TEA's own website, TEA does not have the general authority to close schools for matters related to health. This authority lies with the local health authority, DSHS, and the governor of Texas. All the TEA is able to do is make a recommendation. School districts have the autonomy to make their own decisions about these facilities. We are asking for school districts across the state of Texas to make their own decisions based on the conditions in their counties, cities, and towns. Each school district is unique, and a blanket recommendation from the TEA does not fit for all districts. The TEA is making a recommendation, not a rule. I, along with hundreds of other parents of club swimmers, have been reaching out to the TEA, UIL, the Governor's Office, and the Department of State Health Services, just to name a few. The UIL has responded to us saying that they have no jurisdiction and to contact the TEA. Barbara Cargill, the SBOE District 8 representative, responded to one of our parents. Opening high school pools is a local decision, so I recommend that you reach out to your local board members and superintendent. So now the TEA has removed themselves from the loop. We as parents of club swimmers are at a loss what to do. The governor's office, as of June 6, opened indoor swimming pools at 50% capacity. The Department of State Health Services has issued guidelines to be followed to effectively open pools. USA Swimming has also issued a reopening and training plan for effective social distancing. These clubs all carry insurance. You have Olympic trials qualifying swimmers training at the Lewisville ISD natatoriums on a regular basis with these club teams, and they are desperate to get back in the water. All I'm trying to do is let you, the school district, know that you have the ability and all the authority to open the pool to club teams. USA Water Sports needs your help. If these clubs start to fail, the ramifications will be devastating. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Nikki Allen. The next comment was from Lee Marie Montez. And previous comment made 2020 and elementary school naming. As always, LISD trustees, as always, thank you for your continued service. I also appreciate your reading and hearing my statement submitted in the May board meeting. Catherine Sells responded on 5/20, and I know that I am pending a further update either from Dr. Lori Rapp and or Catherine. Today, I am submitting a statement to join the voices in hopes that the new elementary school would be named in honor of Vernell Gregg. We know that Vernell's legacy speaks for itself. In reading the LISD local naming families facilities policy, it seems that Vernell meets all of the qualifications. If no one has submitted her resume, please let me know and I will send. I hope that you will consider this request. Thank you. The third comment is from Johnny Foster, and the topic is the present and historic underrepresentation of African American teachers in LISD. Dear trusted board members and staff, I am once again writing to you about my ongoing concern of the underrepresentation of African American teachers in our district. This underrepresentation is also evident in our administrative staff, campus administrators, athletic coaches, as well as classroom teachers. Last week, Mrs. Lee Montez emailed each of you a document that shows that as for teachers, this problem has existed for many years. We are very much aware that the data referenced does not include numbers from the latest academic year, 2019-20, but the intent of the document was to show our history and the ongoing trends. I've always believed that this underrepresentation is a problem, and it's a problem that should be fixed, but more importantly, it's a problem that can be fixed if we have a strong desire, willingness, and a commitment to doing so. So with that said, I would like to make a proposal that the LISD Board of Trustees commit to a balanced diversity initiative with the express goal of moving LISD toward a district whose employment demographics reflect the demographics of the student population it serves within the next 10 years. I understand that a lot has to happen to accomplish this, but the first step is having a willingness to do so. So I'm asking each of the elected appointed members of this board to respond to me or Ms. Montez on your willingness to support this proposed initiative. Johnny Foster. The fourth comment is from April Langston, school naming for Vernell Gregg. Good evening. At the February meeting, there were several speakers that shared expression of support for Vernell Gregg with all of her accomplishments, accolades, and tireless support of our children in our district. I sent an email in May, and we still want to follow up to ensure the school naming issue is part of your agenda to consider. She meets all the naming facility standards as set forth by Lewisville ISD. Many of you express fond affection and also love for Sister Gregg. I believe love is not just what you say, but more importantly, what you do. You are the board that can make this happen, since it's still in your power to do so. With all the social unrest and systematic inequities facing African Americans, we have a beacon light in the name of Vernell Gregg, who truly deserves a school named in her honor. She is still in our local area, sheltering in place, in good health, and preparing for her relocation. Let's put love in action and make this recommendation come to fruition while she's still able to be in our midst. We know tomorrow is not promised, so let's not delay on what can be done today. Thank you for your time, but more importantly, thank you for being that school board who can make this happen. Last comment is from Molly Aurora, and it is culturally responsive educator training. As educators, it is our job to advocate for our students. I believe that addressing racism, biases, and prejudices in the classroom should not be optional. Our students look up to us as role models and rely on us when the world around them feels heavy. At this point in time, not every teacher is equipped to talk about issues of social justice and reform come August, because we do not all have the appropriate background knowledge yet. My question to leave with the board is, when is LISD going to be pushing out to teachers and administrators that will equip them with the necessary tools to provide growth amongst staff to make our schools more culturally responsive, equitable places for our students and their families? And that is the final comment. Okay, moving, and there were not any student recognitions or spotlights during this meeting, and I wrote my notes over them, so I missed that, but there were not. Moving on to consent items. Would someone like to make a motion, or are there consent items to be pulled? Ms. Hassett?
I have consent items to be pulled.
Okay, could you please give us that item?
Yeah. 1 second. So sorry. I1J and I3A.
I1J and I,
3A.
okay. I3A1 or
I3A1.
okay. Yes, Ms. Cox.
Old.
Okay.
Would like to pull items 2BP and 2BQ and 316. 3B16.
Okay, give me a moment to make sure I have all these. Oh, 2Q.
Ms. Cox, can you repeat those?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
2P, Q, and then 316.
316.
3B16, correct.
3B16.
And, okay, so I'm going to,
All right.
okay, and these are all under I2B, I2P, and I2Q, and I3B16, if we could
Yep.
make note of that. And let me just make sure that I see Ms. Hassett's. Okay, and 3A1. And are there any others? Okay. Ms. Lasan, did you get all those written down, and would you like to make that motion since you?
Yes, I will. Okay, and so y'all, I think I wrote it down right, so y'all holler if I didn't. Okay. I move that the board approve the consent agenda items as recommended by administration, with the exception of items pulled for separate consideration, which are I1J, I3A1, 2BP.
No, that would be I2P and I2Q. There is an I.
Okay.
They're all ayes.
Yeah, they're all
Okay,
I.
that's kind of, okay. Say that again, I2,
2P.
I2P and
Okay.
I2Q.
I2P and I2Q,
And then I3B16.
and then I3B16.
All right.
Correct.
Got through that. Would somebody then, okay, so you're going to second that one? Perfect. And all in favor of we're consent without those? Oh. Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to say that there are a lot of issues in this omnibus, and I think the staff has done a good job of compiling them, and I appreciate the board members who have had some things to consider. I just would like to say, without getting into specifics, my general support of the omnibus is not necessarily that I agree with everything, but I think the timing of some of the things I would like addressed is not now, given the current crisis. And so there are a lot of people watching tonight looking for some discussion on certain items, and I have intentionally, as Dr. Rogers and Catherine know, I've deferred some opposition to those items out of respect for the significant amount of work the staff is going through.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Perfect. Okay, so now if there's no other comments, we'll vote on that motion with those items pulled. All in favor, just raise your hand and I'll look. Okay, motion carries 6-0. And then, Ms. Hassett, would you like to?
Yeah, I'd like discussion first because I
Go
have
ahead.
discussion on the first one, I1J, resolution for removal of high stakes. After Dr. Fitzhugh so kindly helped edit the resolution, I printed out, since I didn't get it in earlier, I've printed out two different copies of an abbreviated, amended resolution for consideration for high stakes. The first one is a shorter one. It includes language for grade placement in individual graduation committees, the IGCs. So it doesn't extend the idea of the initial resolution. It just adds clarifying language to help delegates at the TASB Delegate Assembly understand more thoroughly what this would do if we remove the high stakes for EOC and STAR. So that's the first one. The second one is a bit longer, and it also includes, I won't read the entire thing, it also includes the language for IGCs and grade placement, the clarifying language, and then it adds removal of high stakes for campuses. So high stakes can be just for students, and the high stakes can be for campuses. So it adds the ceasing the usage of A to F labels associated with accountability, because mainly because a recent study from NWEA titled "Evaluating the Relationships Between Poverty and School Performance" noted that these labels can be greatly affected by low socioeconomic status of our students. So two different versions of the resolution that we could pass. I definitely greatly appreciate Dr. Fitzhugh's addition of the A to F labels. I'm fearing that it would make it a large resolution to discuss on the floor I think it might be easier to discuss just the high stakes for students. And Ms. Prozick and I, we have our LAC meeting coming up, and several other districts have been discussing the A to F, so it might just make it up to TASB's priorities anyway. And even if it's not up in TASB priorities, it's always a discussion point within districts of how to fairly label or not label the schools that are in the districts. So probably just for simplicity's sake, I would go with the shorter one. So I guess then I would make a motion.
And Ms. Sells, can I just jump in that
Yes.
we also mirror Ms. Hassett's request to use that simpler, shorter resolution. So that's where administration lands on.
Okay. Yes, if you'd like to go ahead and make the motion at this time, you can make the motion, we'll get a second, and then we'll have any further discussion from other board members if there is.
Okay. I move for the board to approve resolution for removal of high stakes for graduation and grade promotion for students on the state assessments as amended by a little sheet that I hold in my hand that I'll give Mrs. Riggle later. I'm not really sure how to add that onto the motion.
Yeah, we can make it A or B.
A? Or? A. Okay, that works. A for the short one.
Okay. Okay, do I have a second on that motion? Second, Ms. Lasan. Is there any discussion, or do you have any questions?
I had made the suggestion, asked Ms. Hassett to kind of expand upon the definition of high stakes, and she did, and I think it's a great resolution, so thank you for doing that.
Okay. Is there anything else? Mr. Miller?
I think it's a good resolution. I think as a matter of principle, though, what I'm concerned about is that all of us are reading this tonight without digesting it. So we have to send it in by June 15th? So, I mean, again, and you and I talked about this last week, but I haven't seen this. We're getting this document, going to read it, and we're going to basically rubber stamp it without processing it, the changes, and that's my concern. We wouldn't take a recommendation from staff like this. If they change the document tonight and wanted us to vote on it, we would defer that on a future item. Is there the ability for us to defer this to the next meeting and get a chance to read it and process it and ask questions?
That's a great question, but there's not, because our next meeting is Wednesday, which is outside the time to put something on the agenda. So there's not another time for the board to take action if they want to approve this before the due date of the 15th.
And I would just comment that I don't think the meat of what, of Resolution A has changed. It's just the definitions of it have expanded a little bit more. So it's really not that much different than what you read last week. Would you say?
And as always, if you're not comfortable with anything presented by either the board or administration, you can always vote your conscience without problem.
You know I will.
Of course.
But Ms. Lasan, I agree, but that assumes that we all agree that the shorter version is the way to go. I mean, to process this in a few minutes that's not how we make decisions. And so as a matter of principle, I have some apprehension about making a decision that way, which is not going to be a surprise to you. So we can go ahead and vote, and I'll probably abstain.
Okay, we can go ahead and vote. Okay. But we do, and had this been something new, this would not have been brought, but because it was just a clarification of the definitions, right?
Yeah, and I will say that, Ms. Hassett did what the board asked last Monday, and that was asked for input from Dr. Fitzhugh, which she did receive. And so Dr. Fitzhugh looked at both of these.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion? I have a much wider frame to look at for you guys, so I am trying to make sure I make eye contact with each of you. Okay, if no other discussion, all in favor, if you would vote, and any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 5 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay. Okay, Ms. Hassett, would you like to speak on your next item pulled or make a
Yes.
motion?
I'd like to first get some clarification. I did ask staff about this one. Let me pull this one up. The recommendation shows Innovative Solution Advisors, and my curiosity is that when I asked a question, it said that they were one price for some of the ticket takers and everything, but it's the hourly rate wages are higher than was stated when I asked a question on our board questions.
Yeah, let me just give an overview, and then I may have to have Mr. Martin chime in, but because several questions came from the board on this, and the question is, one of the things is we're looking for solutions on how to man our events like, large gatherings, football games, so on. Staffing has been an issue for several years, so by us doing this RFP, it doesn't tie us into using this company, it just allows us to look at that possibility. So that's one of the things I need to make sure of. We have not, even after this is approved, it doesn't mean for sure we're going to use this company. It just gives us some opportunities. It's continually been a problem. I remember even as COO of trying to figure out how to pay staff to man these events. So remember that if we hire, for instance, a maintenance worker to be a ticket taker, which is what happens, maintenance workers, they hit the 40 hour plus, and they're making lots of money per hour for the same job that we might be paying $10, $12 an hour for someone that hasn't hit that for. So there's a lot of reasons to at least look at this as an option. And so I don't know about the exact prices. I don't have that in front of me, so I don't know, Craig, if that's something you can, or I know I see Jeff Kaj is on the meeting. Can one of y'all speak to Ms. Hassett's questions on that?
My concern is that we're paying some of these people at the events more than some of our aides, and so that was my concern.
The hourly rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, you're absolutely right, and some of those folks then, if they were already making more than the aides in their hourly rate, but there are employees, and now they're not, and they're working for us at the event, they're actually hitting time and a half. So we're trying to make it uniform to where everyone makes the same amount for the same job, and of course try to save money, and also find people to staff the event. So that's really our motive for that. I don't know, but if you have a specific question, I'm going to have to defer to as far as the amount.
Madam Sells?
Yes.
President, should we make a motion first and then
Yes.
have our discussion?
Yeah, I was going to ask her to go ahead and make the motion. Could you make the motion, Ms. Hassett?
Well, at this point, I probably would not make a concurring motion. So if you think it might pass, you might ask someone else to make it, because I would probably change vendors or make a.
Okay, Ms. Lasan has agreed to make the motion.
I move that the board approve consent agenda item I3A1
Okay.
as recommended by administration.
Okay, do I have a second? Ms. Cox? Okay, now for discussion, Ms. Prosnick.
Thank you. My question is there a way to put into the contract that employees on that campus have first right to those jobs?
I don't know, Mr. Kaj or Mr. Martin, can y'all answer that question?
I can. Ms. Prosnick, I don't believe we included language in our bid document for responses. I do think we can bring forth the district's request on that. I think from my knowledge, as Dr. Rogers alluded to, it's trying to make sure we have plenty of staff to work these positions, and I think that's been the overwhelming challenge, is just having consistent amount of personnel to fill all these positions. And I know Coach Ford has alluded to the fact that, again, that this is not necessarily for sure the road they want to go. They did want to have this option if there was going to be a need for that in the fall. You know, I know the employment percentages across the area and the state have drastically changed when this bid went out. This was before COVID, so it could be a whole different scenario.
But I'm sorry, I do believe, Ms. Prosnick, and I think Mr. Young's mentioned this in the board agenda question answers, is that we certainly will, and we can certainly look at the contract and see if it can be structured that way, but we certainly want to use those folks that have been working there. The question then is going to be, do they want to do it? Because if some of them have been making $45 an hour and now the average pay for a ticket taker is $20 an hour, they may choose not to, but certainly they need to have that opportunity to make that choice. So.
And I wonder if, along Ms. Prosnick's, because we had almost the same exact question on the board book, almost a tiered approach, because what we find is when you go to those games, you automatically then see employees in the feeder pattern. So maybe a tiered approach where the campus and then those employees within that feeder. If there's going to be additional change to the contract, if we could just go ahead and make that. I would hate for somebody to bump somebody within even that feeder pattern just because.
Yeah,
and I know that that's not the intent, but also intent can be lost throughout time.
I don't think it actually, Ms. Sells, has been an issue because we've been scrambling to get whoever we could get for whatever event. So, and I know Mr. Garrett deals some with that, but
yeah,
absolutely, we want to continue to allow our folks the first option. I mean, that would only be right. So what I would tell the board is we will certainly try to put that in the contract if there's a way to do that. So.
And I know that when those events open back up, we've had a number of employees whose spouses or family members have now lost jobs because of COVID, and so we may see a different response, and I just want to make sure that those are protected. So, okay, is there any more discussion? Ms. Cox?
Well, not just discussion, but should we amend the motion to include that language if the ability to do that? Because right now it's leaving it open.
I think that would make sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we can either ask Ms. Lassonde to withdraw her original motion, or we can amend that amendment, and then we will vote on that amendment, but then we will have to come back and vote on the original amendment and hope it fails.
Can I ask for a point of order?
Yes.
To that point, while someone could make an amendment or withdraw the amendment, could we just have just a little bit more conversation before we make the amendment?
Absolutely.
Just for consideration. So I think as I listened to the discussion, there are a couple things that stand out to me. Number one, it's news to me, and I apologize if I missed it, that we've had a problem staffing in this area. Two, if I'm not sure that it's a budget issue, and if it is, and we've had a budget, in other words, we're paying employees who work here money, and it's more money than we would pay a staffing firm like this, I'm actually okay with that. $124,000 is not, it's a lot of money, but we're probably not even going to spend that because of the things that we're now talking about. Which the third point is, then does that take us to, is the bid solid? Because we probably gave them a number of hours to bid against, and they bid against it, and this is what they came back with. And the fourth item is, I think, to Ms. Hassett's point, as I look at the pricing, is there an explanation of best value that we can have that shows that we should go with this provider versus others? Because you do see, as a percentage, some variances.
I'm trying to figure that. Sorry about that.
That was a lot.
Okay, so I think I'll go to the last question first, and I may need Mr. Martin for you to answer as far as best value. But I think also, what makes me consider that we use company like this, and I will tell you that I apologize, it's not something we've reported, but it's been a continual problem to find staffing for these types of events. We were at Texas Motor Speedway, and we saw what people that's all they do, how efficient that they can be. And so that's sort of part of the move that I think Coach Ford and folks are trying to figure out is how can we utilize people that's what they do is special events and help us because, I go to our special events and I'm extremely proud, but they're also run a little loosely. And we're trying to tighten them up with safety features, possible clear bags as far as getting into a stadium. I mean, those types of things. And it's really going to be beneficial that we might have the access to some people that have done those types of things. But Mr. Martin, can you answer the question regarding well, let me try to get this question answered, and then Mr. Martin, can you answer that question regarding the best value part of Mr. Miller's?
Yes, sir. We did have listed evaluation criteria in our staff worked with Coach Ford going through that, the responses and the references, and from that process, the vendor that's recommended did have the highest score. From the process, they're not necessarily the lowest price, but they're considered to be the best value. And, that is part of the of any of these bids, and so that was the recommendation from the end user.
Ms. Sells?
Yes.
And that's what I had taken away from this, is that I know we had staffing issues on these types of events, and I could see that the intent was to try to staff it with a group that does this, which is my concern is we might pay them more, and then most likely our staff wouldn't staff these events as much as others paid outside the district, not district employees, and then they might be paid more than our own district employees would be on a classroom basis. And so is that not the case, that most likely if we decided to pull the trigger and go with this, it possibly could be that they would use, by and large, people who are not district employees to do this?
Yeah, I think, Ms. Hassett, it's sort of as I mentioned earlier, you're trying to find an equitable thing for hourly pay, and if our employees, as a part of working for us, go straight, they work their 37 and a half hours during the week, and they go and they work 5 hours Friday night, they are now making $30, $40, $50 according to who they are an hour, versus, it happens all the time at all of our sporting events that according to these hourly employees, it's not an issue with exempt employees, teachers, coaches, but it is for our hourly employees. And so we've talked about this for probably 8 to 10 years, so it was just an idea of, hey, let's at least make it a little more formal and see what's out there without guaranteeing that we will do it. So,
And Dr. Rogers, I think to that point, it's only a one-year term. This would be a very new idea, and so the intent is to be proactive when you're seeing the problem and not be caught off guard, but that our staff takes precedence and we're not locked into a solution for a long period of time as we look at, is this a feasible solution for us?
I'll finish with this comment. We do? Oh, okay. Go ahead. If you were, I'm sorry. I should look over here. I would, this is, probably people watching like, this is not governance, this is in the weeds. But we're required by law to do it, so we're going to ask the questions. Here's what I would offer. You can't create the efficiency, I don't believe, I'm not you, but I don't believe you can get the efficiency you expect if you don't completely go all in. You can't have a hybrid model of our employees and their employees and do what we did at Texas Motor Speedways. It has to be all in. They've got to manage their methods and procedures, their processes. And so if this is the intent of the district, I would say, and it gets approved, I would say to Coach Ford, go all in. There's no hybrid model. It's all in. This reminds me of the crossing guard discussion in one of our municipalities, right? And so if we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's not do a hybrid. That's not direction. That's just an offer of recommendation, because I just don't think a hybrid would get you the efficiencies we're hoping for. And, we're going to probably save money if we go all in with this. So let's just do it.
I don't think on short notice, Mr. Miller, that you can do it without a hybrid, because you're going to need to. It's sort of like our bus transportation company. They can't all of a sudden in the summer hire 250 new bus drivers, without hiring existing bus drivers, and I think it's going to be the same. I absolutely agree with you long-term that if we see that this hybrid we try the hybrid and it really makes sense to continue, then I think it's absolutely something we seriously consider. But I just don't think we can get there from June to August, our first events, without trying to utilize our staff too.
And I think I'm going to go the far right, and y'all can decide who goes first.
I did want some clarification, because I wanted to make sure that I read it correctly, and that is that none of these people would be taking money.
You know that, Mr. Kaj or Mr. Martin? That's not something I've heard in the discussion, but I might have missed
I'm
it.
not aware or privy to how the contract was written. I came in after it was already put in place, so maybe Mr. Martin can help fill that in.
No, like that you're taking
I'm not
money.
sure about the money as well. I just know they would be taking in tickets, but I'm not sure about.
Well, I guess that's what I want clarification on. I am very leery to letting an outside company take money that is the district's money. Like at the ticket booth, for example, that I go up, I purchase a ticket. I have some concern.
Okay. Ms. Cox?
So, Ms. Sells, a couple of things. Is one, do we have to vote on this tonight? Because obviously there's some questions. And then my question is also, is there any way we could get some referrals to see what districts maybe have used this company and how it's working for them? I'd like to get some feedback on that. I think this is seems like a good idea, as Dr. Rogers, basically said. We've had issues on hiring people, and it allows our staff to be more available at the games, et cetera, and our SRO officers to have more reinforcement there too. But I think it seems like we need a little more information, so I wanted to see if maybe we could pull this item to vote.
Yeah, and I apologize, Ms. Cox. I would certainly be willing to pull it. I'm not for sure that we can bring it back, but, to be honest with you, if I'd known that it was going to meet this opposition, I wouldn't have had it on here in the first place. We'll see if we can bring it back to possibly take action next week at your board operating procedures workshop. But I will have this item pulled, and we'll try to get the questions answered that y'all are asking.
And I do need Ms. Lasan to remove her motion. Yes, Ms. Cox. Oh, okay.
You sure we don't want to just vote on it? Y'all just don't want to vote on it, or just remove it?
I think I'm sure.
Okay, you think you're sure? Okay, well, then I will remove the motion of, do I need to read the whole thing again? Okay. I remove that the board approve consent agenda item I31A as recommended by administration.
And
Okay,
that
so
was I3A1.
Yeah, sorry.
3A1. So the motion has been removed, has been requested to be removed by Ms. Lasan, and so that will be Ms. Cox. No, she can just remove her own motion. Yes. Okay, so we're going to move on, and now, Ms. Cox, we're finally up to you and your I2P.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to consider approval of hazardous bus routes for 2020-2021.
Okay, Ms. Cox made the motion, Ms. Prosnick seconded, and can you want to speak to your motion, Ms. Cox?
So mine's more of just a clarification, the way I read the information. So I just want to clarify, Dr. Rogers, that we are not adding or deleting any hazardous bus routes that are currently in place.
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly correct. We are not making any changes to hazardous bus routes for next school year.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we had that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm happy.
Okay. Is there any other comments or anything? Okay, we'll vote on that motion. All in favor, if you raise your hand. The motion carries 6-0. Ms. Cox, would you like to speak to your I2Q?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to consider approval of school resource officers, City of Carrollton, City of the Colony, City of Highland Village, City of Lewisville, and the Town of Flower Mound.
Okay, do I have a second? Ms. Prosnick, go ahead and seconds. And would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Cox?
I just wanted to take an opportunity, first of all, to say thank you publicly to all of our cities who join in the cost of this and value our SRO officers. I'd like to thank Mr. Garrett and his team that really value our schools. We all see as board members up here, but I think our teachers would allude to it as well, the impact these SRO officers make for our children and in our schools. And now that we have them in middle school, and it was so great to see that these middle school officers also join in the elementary to go make visits to Wellsville elementary schools. I feel safe in LISD, and I'm proud to have these cities join in and value the cost of our SRO officers. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Mr. Miller, I see your finger on your buzzer.
Well, since Ms. Cox brought it up, I want to echo that. This week, we see a lot of things that have happened with our SROs, and starting last year with the high fives, or 2 years ago from the Flower Mound PD, and just the way that we've seen the school resource officers, which are not school cops, they're school resource officers that work with students and build relationships. And I just wanted to reinforce something that I observed this week, as we've all seen some peaceful protests in my city. There were peaceful protests, and our one of the folks that's a school resource officer was out there, and I was standing next to him. And I'm going to tell you that the way he dealt with some of the students walking by him and interacting with him that might look different than us or come from different families was incredible. Putting his arms around them, talking about that he's a safe place, that people like him are a safe place, was well beyond. That wasn't a school resource officer. That was a human being in a uniform that has a job to do, that it's more than just a paycheck. It's what he did to bring about reconciliation. I think you know who I'm talking about, Matt. So I am very proud of the program we have, and I'm glad, Ms. Cox, you brought that up. But we have really done it with recommendations from you guys, beef this up. And I know that some of the cities would like us to do more, some of the schools would like us to do more, but I just want to share that example publicly, because most of the time the work that these guys and gals do in our schools, it goes unnoticed. But it's not just what they do in the schools, it's what they do when they're out in the community. And so thank you.
Yes. Anybody else on this side? Thank you both for echoing the sentiment of, I believe, all of our board members. I remember walking on a campus and a student addressing an SRO, and I knew the student, and I said, "Hey, you know him?" And he said, his words, Matt, were, "We are family." And I think that is what that uniqueness of that SRO program brings to our campuses, and I just want to say thank you too. So, okay, so if there's no other comments, all in favor of the motion, if we could raise our hands, and that motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much. Okay, Ms. Cox, moving on.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the DIR TSO 3926 Splunk licensing and related professional services.
Okay. Second, Ms. Prosnick again? Okay, and would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Cox?
Yeah, so Ms. Hassett actually brought up some good information in the questions that were asked in the board letter. So I guess I'd like to ask Dr. Rogers is, I'm very excited about this program, so we're going to be actually getting some data on the iPads and just actually the usage. So my question is, how often are we going to have that? Is it going to be a, yearly, just a one time a year? Because I'd really like to see maybe a quarterly update on the iPad data.
So, Mr. Colbeck, can you, I know your Technology Advisory Committee is also working on this, and so I don't know if you and/or Dr. Rapp can discuss sort of the frequency of when this data is going to be available.
Yeah, we last time we did an update was in November, and I think we were looking at doing another one. In fact, just leading up to COVID, we were going over a lot of the Splunk data with the Technology Advisory Committee. Additionally, David Kuntz and the Technical Information Services Group has been working on, developing those campus profiles and setting up the process to get that data into Edugens. So I think from what we're trying to do really is to not necessarily have the data as something that we're looking at, a point in time, that it could be an ongoing data set at the campus level is where we're trying to take it. But I think as far as doing it more than once a year, my plan was to bring that back again, sometime this spring. Obviously that we've really been derailed with COVID. So my response to the question for the board letter was to bring that back in the fall as an update. So I was thinking, September, October, something like that. But if you want to do it sooner, we could do that as well.
So, Mr. Colbeck, I guess to the trustee's question, it would be relatively easy to bring that back at least in front of them at least 3 times and possibly 4 times a year. And actually, it'll also be sort of live data eventually. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We can do it. We just need to know the cadence and when you want to do it, or how. If it's in a board update or in a board meeting, that would be helpful too.
All right.
So, Ms. Sells, I guess I'm asking that you make a point to put those on the board agenda or on a workshop when you're scheduling the information 4 times a year.
We'll just add it to our board calendar that Dr. Rapp has a handy dandy calendar where we'll report it out quarterly and space it out.
Is there anything else, Mr. Miller?
I would say, I think it's a great question, and maybe a good protocol would be when Mr. Gardner comes, we have a report on Splunk, to get a readout. For some of us, this is last week would have been the 7-year anniversary of these discussions. So we're chomping at the bit to see the data on this, to see how these devices are using, and 7 years is a long time. Now, I also appreciate that technology has really improved, and we've made some decisions, and there have been some good things there, Dr. Rogers.
I was about to chime in. We've been sharing
Brian,
the
I
data.
see Brian smiling. I know those are great. It's great progress.
Yeah. Right.
But it's a very important discussion, and not just for the board, I think for the public. So thank you.
Right. And Mr. Hwelbeck, you did mention that at some point in time it would almost be alive, that we could almost see that data at the moment.
Yeah, we're working on a couple projects ahead of that in Edugens, but we're ready to get that project on board with them once we finish up some of the early warning work that we're doing with them.
Okay. And my request would just, if we could integrate that into something that we as board members would have access to without, yes, and that would be in that dashboard.
Yeah,
so
the dashboard would be the right
Perfect.
Tool for that, I think.
Okay. So as soon as that is available. Okay. So are there any other comments or anything? Okay. If we would like to vote, everybody in favor, if you'd raise your hand, and the motion carries 6-0. Okay. I think we have made it our way through the consent agenda. All right. And now we're moving on to our information items. Dr. Rapp?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask Rocky Gardner to go ahead and come on up for us, and he will be delivering our first quarter 2020 report.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. I can tell you guys, this is my first live in-person report since January or February, so let's hope I can still do this. It's been interesting. That's our last slide. Don't read it. Sorry. It's been an interesting couple months for us and for you all as well. So this is data collected through the first quarter. So keep in mind the housing data was January, February, March. And I think that's really important to understand because COVID really hit us at the last part of that first quarter. And so I'm going to talk to COVID a little bit. Are you advancing the slide? Or am I supposed to? Oh, am I supposed to use this? Was I supposed to touch this? Okay. New to me. Do I wear gloves? I'm not sure. There you go. COVID-19. So, COVID-19's changed a lot of things, and it's fluid and ever-changing. So we're trying to follow and keep up with as much as we can, from the housing market to the economy to just trying to understand unemployment rates. I didn't think I did that. Sorry, it must be self-advancing. Okay. This is the first quarter. Okay, so 30 million. You can see that at the end of the first quarter, there were 30 million Americans unemployed, just like that. That number's it's over 40 million now. And even though we did get some really good news, with unemployment rates, they're not real sure how much we can trust them. So there's chances are that unemployment rates are really probably, instead of being the 12 to 13, like what was discussed, it's probably closer to 20% in reality. But with that said, Texas and Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, these are cities that they think are going to rebound quicker and not be impacted quite as much. Houston, they're a little bit, this is really automatically advancing. Dallas and Austin are considered two of the markets that are low risk, I think, because of the situation. Texas has been pretty fluid. 5 of the top 10 most recession-proof areas. Something is automatically advancing my slides. I'm not sure why, but is that the PowerPoint or PDF? You could try that. Okay. Oh, it's me. Okay. Well, if you could back up one, I think 1, 2. There we go. So enrollment in 1920, we saw regions 10 and 11. This just gives you a glimpse of what's happened the last 5 years. The yellow areas are areas that were negative. The darker the color, the higher the growth. So we know that Lewisville declined about 1,167 students during that 5-year period. And you can see there that it was there's no real surprise there. There were several things. Low kindergarten rates and charter school impacts were the two biggest things. If we go forward to the next slide, please. The new home ranking report, 1,139 starts. 1,333 closings. This is what we're watching because this is what's interesting. There are, we're averaging over 1,000 starts, 1,300 closings, and you can see that there's an inventory there of 669. That's what I want you to keep an eye on, because when we start trying to figure out what's going to happen in the housing market this summer, it's that inventory we got to watch, because there are already homes under construction or finished vacant when COVID hit. So there's still buyers out there. If we advance that next slide, right there. Yeah, see where you have color is where you have activity. And this is, sorry, that inventory number, you see there again, 669. Okay, about 400 of that is under construction. There's another 200 homes that were finished but vacant. So even though builders are telling us that they think they're only going to do about 80% of what they forecasted, and we made an alternative forecast that you may have already looked at, we believe that there's opportunity there, that these closings are going to happen. Those 600 that are in inventory are likely going to close during the third and fourth quarter. So that's likely going to happen. Next slide, please. If we look at activity, there's 1,800 lots available to be built on right now. So vacant developed lots in Lewisville ISD are sitting at right around 1,800. So that's about a year and a half of growth that we don't have to deliver any lots. Because one thing that we've heard also with COVID is that developers are not going to develop land. They're just going to kind of sit for a second and see what's going to happen. Well, we already got 1,800 lots that are ready to be built on tomorrow. So there is, it's like this, I think, like I'm talking almost in circles. We're going to see 80% of what they expected, but yet we've got all this opportunity here, in vacant lots. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Next slide, please. Kensington Place, we've got a couple of futures here that the plans were approved in February of 2020. Now, we don't know. These are the kind of things that are going to slow down. But keep in mind, if these futures slow down, we're talking about something that impacts you 2 and 3 years down the road. And so it's not something that's going to impact this next school year. So when we hit the fall, when we've got 2 more quarters of good, can you say good COVID information? Because there's not really anything good about COVID, but good, solid historical information that we can look at, then hopefully our fall projections are going to be able to tell us a little more about 21, 22. Next slide, please. Parker Place, I think that this was owned by the school district, I guess. So this was sold, and they're going to build homes here. They can think about 131 lots. We're not sure how long before they'll get going on this, but again, more future activity. I think we have one more slide like that. Smith Tract. Right now, that home is still on there. There's a big house on that tract there right now, but again, that's going to be about 30 homes when they build there too. And Toll Brothers, once they own property, they move pretty quick once they have the opportunity. Next slide, please. Multifamily, you've got 3,200 multifamily units under construction right now. Multifamily has said, in the surveys that we've seen on apartments, have said that construction could drop by 50%, but they're not going to stop what's already being built. So again, the momentum that's going on with the multifamily is still going to happen. And the 7,500 future units, now that could be a question mark. That could be delayed. But I think you're going to see some good housing, the housing market, the apartment market could stay strong, especially with people working remotely. If they have opportunity to stay somewhere and not, commute times will not be as important. So, people that might have moved to the city a year ago thinking that they wanted to move into town, they may decide to stay outside of town. So again, different information that we can talk about, but we don't have solid information on. Next slide, please. The TEA transfer report, we put this in here. These numbers come out every year. This is not our data, just to be clear. This is data directly from TEA. What I think was interesting is there were about 200 more students transferring into Lewisville ISD from other areas last year than the previous year, so a nice bump of 200 students. Now, there were also about 200 students that left the Lewisville ISD to attend another school district or a charter campus. So it was almost a wash. You gained about 200 and you lost about 200, but I think the gain is likely some employees, students of employees. The loss appears to be, again, across some of the charter campuses as well. And we do have another charter campus coming our way. And next slide, please. Yeah, so we're expecting 5 new charter schools in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in 2021. The one that you're probably very familiar with, the Lakeway Elementary campus there. That's located in the current high school building there. So we don't think that's going to really have a large impact. Right now, our team, even though we know it's coming, we don't think it's going to have as big an impact as previous charter schools have, just because of there's already activity there in their charter pattern. So this next slide is our enrollment projection. So we've inserted a pink, I like to think of it as a salmon color. I think of it as your salmon color there for your COVID-19 alternative. So again, just to explain how I developed the alternatives, and we did the same thing for all clients. We just looked at the housing that was being forecasted in Lewisville ISD, and we took a 25% out of that. So what we were forecasting, if we were forecasting 100 homes in a neighborhood, we said, okay, what would happen if they only built 75? So it's really the only, I'd say, credible source that we had, because we've done some surveys that builders said, we think we're going to do about 75 to 80% of what we at first hoped. I didn't make, and so that's why when you see the adjustments by campus, those adjustments are different at every campus, because if there's no housing right now forecasted within an attendance pattern, then we didn't adjust their enrollment. Now, there's lots of people that think there could be charter impacts. Are students going to come back from virtual schools? Are they going to want to do virtual or homeschool? But there's no solid surveys. So it would have been me just kind of guessing. And so not that my projections are a guess ever, of course, but at least we have some survey information that we could use, and so that's why I did that. So I do think there's opportunity in Lewisville, though, that it doesn't happen, that the inventory sells and our impact could be felt maybe a year later, and we'll look at that this fall. So again, we think that the district, these are the individual campuses, so you can see in some of those campuses there's like absolutely no change at all, or just 1 year. This is a grade level look because we're only looking at 1 year. So we've got 2 slides that show your elementary students there, about 70 students in elementary that would drop. I think there's about 50 at the middle school level on that next slide. Got 50 less middle school students forecasted in the COVID alternative. And I think the high school is probably right around that 70 number as well. I'm trying to remember. High school is around 54. So again, overall, it's about 160 students that we think, 160 fewer students that would attend Lewisville ISD based on this COVID alternative. Next slide, please. So the key takeaways: national unemployment rate 16 to 18%, roughly 12% in April. Like I said, I think that those unemployment rates are a little bit low given some of the information we've seen lately. But record new home starts in the first quarter. So it was interesting. Again, the first quarter finished strong, but builders expect to complete about 80% of what was planned. Existing home listings have decreased, and I think that's interesting too, because a decrease in existing home listings, you can imagine that people weren't wanting people to kind of traipse through their homes, but this also gives builders an opportunity, because if they're not going to go to existing homes, then they can go look at a new model home. So that's important for the district. We're forecasting what we're calling a Nike swoosh recovery, I guess. What they're saying is it's not going to bounce back as quickly as it dropped off, so it's going to take a little bit of time, 18 to 20 months. I mean, when the unemployment rates came out last week, the stock market, they reacted as if we're going to have a V recovery, I guess. But I think we're going to see that flatten out a little bit and see recovery be a little slow. But I think the opposite of the last recession is I think housing might take us out of this recession in a way that it maybe drove us into the last one. So that's my initial thoughts. It's a pleasure to be back. I'm glad everybody's here and healthy.
And Ms. Sells, let me just jump in. First off, it's great to have Rocky back, and we've been working with Rocky for several months on this. But I do want to, where he alluded to his new COVID-19 numbers, when I first saw those, of course, I quickly compared that to Dr. Rapp's efficiency team numbers. And I will tell you that her efficiency team was even more conservative than the COVID-19 numbers, which I felt really good about as we had used those numbers for staffing. So we're even more conservative than that decrease in staffing. So.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Cox?
First, Rocky, I just want to say thank you. Your presentation, you keep adding material, and I really appreciate you adding the unemployment, the COVID. So thank you. I mean, the more detail we can get, the better we're able to serve our students and kind of get a snapshot of what we're looking at.
Yes, ma'am.
But my question is on the 10-year report that you showed. I was wondering, or just curious, what you all are thinking, because it looks like in second grade, third, 10th, and 12th, the COVID numbers actually increase for students instead of everyone else is a decrease. So I was curious what y'all are thinking. Those are specific grades we're doing something spectacular in, or?
I don't know I'm not sure what you mean by the increase. You have to compare the pink number to the blue one.
Yeah, it was higher, yeah.
The blue one below.
The orange one.
No, but you need to compare the blue to the pink. The orange is this year, and the pink and the blue are what we're forecasting for next year.
Okay, so compare it to the bottom number.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, I could have been more clear about that. It's a 2021 alternative, 2020, 2021. Is that?
Yeah.
Those should all be a little bit bigger or smaller in pink.
Yes, I think so. Okay, that makes me feel better.
Good, me too.
Okay, the numbers are a little bit different. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else? I'm looking on my right first. I'll go to my left. Nothing? Okay, I'm going to lean over. Thank you, Rocky.
It's great to see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see you. Okay, perfect. Now moving on to Dr. Rapp with our DIP update.
Yes, ma'am. So this is our last district improvement plan update for this school year. Again, thank you all so much for your attention to detail as we submit those throughout the year. Just a few highlights I wanted to point out. In spite of COVID-19, we had 95% of our campuses at level 3 in their PLC work. We had mental health awareness modules that the staff moved to online, as Dr. Rogers referenced, and we put that in the DIP. We've launched our frontline applicant system that our principals are currently using, and we've continued to have campuses earn their Common Sense Media recognition even as we have entered into this COVID-19 period. So thank you again so much, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions?
I'm sorry. My only question is, so I know that we are already in the processes for the 2021 district improvement plan. So when will we, what is the, just I'm asking kind of like, just what's that time frame that we'll get our first kind of peek at what that looks like? Because I'm wondering if we have alternative, if you will, goals in that because of COVID.
Yes, we have made some adjustments to those goals in discussion considering next school year. Your first look at that would be in August for discussion.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to DEC local update. Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Ms. Sells, Board, and we are joined by Brenda Nicholson, who leads our benefits office. So if you remember last year, in June of last year, we brought forward board policy DEC local. And so one of the things that we asked you to change is to have folks exhaust all paid leave prior to hardship. I'm not for sure who the reverb is, but to restrict the use, the access to use until after you've worked for us for 90 full days, which is very common. A reduction of from 20 to 10 days per school year for their own personal illness, and then the increase in the salary reduction of employees' daily rate. So I think when the board approved this, the purpose for us to report back is just to sort of get an idea of how it's gone. And so I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Nicholson. Now, I will remind you, as Ms. Nicholson's been here, I think, 3 months, so she's not going to have a full year of experience, but she does have a wealth of experience working in benefits in other school districts. And so, Brenda, can you sort of give them a little bit of a... Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Like Dr. Rogers said, I just wanted to give a review of how it's gone over this past year since you made your policy changes on the hardship leave.
Let me jump in for a second, Brenda, because we're having some audio problems. I don't know if any of our IT folks can give her some assistance on how to correct that, or... Can you close out and rejoin real quick and see if that works? Ms. Prosnick can tell you how to do that.
Sure, I'll jump back in just a second.
And hey, be sure and admit her into the meeting. Okay, Brenda, let's try it again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, much better.
Okay, all right, thanks. So I was saying was that I just wanted to give a review over how the hardship leave has been accepted since the changes to your policy last year. In my information item, I listed those changes for you. And one of the goals for the change was to bring it more in line with what we're seeing with other districts and to strengthen how it's administered with our employees. We're happy to say that even with these changes, LISD still offers some very generous benefits, especially in this area. We don't see very many of these hardship leave policies. And honestly, I started in February. I have not heard negative response since then. We also did set up a new application process for this, because up until that point, we had not had an application. These were just being submitted and approved and awarded without an application process. So we've tightened that process up as well. You can see that we also had a 60% reduction in the district funds on that, as we did reduce it to 10 days rather than 20, and initiated that process. That's just a very quick overview. Does anyone have questions on that?
And Ms. Nicholson, let me jump in and just, you made this statement, and I know Ms. Smith in Employee Services has dealt with this too. But once again, you made the statement, even with the changes, we offer still a much more generous package than most school districts. Is that correct as far as your experience?
Yes.
And Sheila,
Yes.
Is that your experience too?
Yes, in all my experience, I've never had a hardship leave, and it doesn't require catastrophic illness. So it is most definitely a benefit for employees.
Thank y'all.
Do we have any questions? Yes.
I also went around and I looked at other neighboring districts, and I was curious on your thought. We do not give bereavement leave in our district. It is kind of covered under this hazard pay. Is that correct?
Well, they can apply for it if they're a member of the sick leave bank, and also through the hardship.
So the hardship, but we don't have a separate. Many surrounding districts do have a separate bereavement
No, we don't.
benefit. In my research, I found that several surrounding districts offered that in conjunction with, a lot of districts call, instead of hazard pay, they call it local leave. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, we do have our local leave that everyone gets, the
Right.
3 days a year.
But it's different than the
Yeah.
additional, that some districts in their, everybody's policy is just a little bit different when it comes to.
I know, that's true. Yes. They would have some bereavement leave in some cases. Not all do. And like you said, some call it different policy names. Some of them are able to get that through donated days. It's a variety of local policies on that.
So, but bereavement days are paid at full pay, not at 50% pay.
If you had a bereavement leave, yes.
Okay. I guess I would ask the district to look at perhaps adding that type of a leave or benefit to our employees.
Now, if they are a member of the sick leave bank, they would receive that at full day pay.
And and Brenda, about what percentage of our staff participate in sick leave bank? Do we know?
I'm working on that now. I don't have the percentage in front of me, but I can get that.
I think it's
We're
a high
looking at it for
percentage,
next
though.
year.
I mean, I've been a member of sick leave bank for
Yeah.
20 years, which is a great benefit that most school districts do not have. So there are other things in place, but it's something that we can certainly look at.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Okay, there are none, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And moving on to discussion items, Mr. Youngs.
You sure, Dr. Rogers, you don't want to do this?
No, I'll leave that to you. Thank you, Mark.
All right. I'd like to call your attention to page 326 of the board book, please. 326. So these financials are as of the end of April. I'll remind the board that that's month 8 in our school year, so we're 8/12 of the way through the year. 8/12 is 2/3 or 67%. So we're 2/3 of the way through the year, and that figure will become important as we go through the numbers. The general fund is at the top, and I'm just going to call your attention to some of the numbers, certainly not all of the numbers. I want you to focus on the 3rd column from the left and the 4th column from the left. So up near the top of the general fund, you can see the 3 different kinds of revenue that we create. Local is the M&O tax at work, state money. As our values go up, we get less of that. And as values go up, we start sending money to the state, and you all know about that. Get a little bit of federal money, so we had budgeted $490 million for this year in the general fund. So far, we've received $460. So school business is interesting in that revenue comes in lumpy, big chunks. And so we've received 94% of our budgeted revenue through only 2/3 of the year. Then go down to the bottom of that major section, you can see total general fund expenditures. 3rd column from the left, we're looking at $536 million, and we've spent $317, so we haven't spent anywhere near. And you can see the notation in the 2nd column from the left near that line of $28 million. That relates to the purchase of the buses that you're familiar with. Then near the bottom of the general fund piece, 4th column from the left, you can see an excess of revenues over expenses of $143 million. That's certainly not going to be added to fund balance at the end of the year. We'll spend a good portion of that as we move through the remainder of the fiscal year that ends in August. So let me pause there and ask if there's any questions about the general fund through the end of April.
Does anybody have any? Ms. Hassett?
And could you tell us, how are we trending on the deficit for the end of the year?
The likelihood of us having a deficit is very remote.
And that's not even considering if we close any of the current property sales that are upcoming.
That's excluding the revenue that would stream into the general fund from the sale of real estate. That's correct. Operationally, we should have a surplus.
And Ms. Hassett, I think, and Mr. Young's jump in, I saw something from Ms. Trevino saying that this current year budget could be a $4 million to no deficit. So that's, and I just remind the board, and I know Mr. Youngs will tell us this too, the budget continues to get better as we go further into the summer, but I appreciate his candidness as far as the deficit.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I appreciate this, Mr. Young. So I know Dr. Rogers just said $4 million deficit, but this is a...
I think he said a $4 million surplus.
I'm sorry. Because this conversation right now that we're starting is a sequence of discussions that will continue to August, and they're very complex and interwoven because I know there are a lot of people watching us wondering what we're going to do. And we're not going to do raises tonight. That's Wednesday for those watching. But just to be clear, so there's not this shock factor that people think, oh, they said they were only going to put $4 million in. It's very likely, if things materialize, that we will put a significant amount of money back into our fund balance. I just want to make note of that because it's an important thing for people to understand so they don't see this big shock when they see that adjustment. Now, in actuality, that expectation of cash is not something that we can put in this document because we don't have it. But it's likely we'll get some money and we will have a pretty significant amount of money we'll put in our fund balance.
Yeah, and I guess Mr. Miller and I won't let the accountant jump in. I just, words like significant to me, if you could give me some parameters of what significant are, then I can give you a better answer as far as yes or no.
I would say that a number that is close to 6 times the surplus we're talking about now would be significant.
I think that's probably a little too
5.
ambitious, but I think certainly if you're talking about including the revenue from the real estate, sales, then I think you're probably right that we have the opportunity to possibly put about 20 million in fund balance. Is that a fair assessment, Mr. Young?
That is a fair assessment. So in summary, operationally, the business of the Lewisville School District in the general fund should run at a surplus by itself. And whether that's 4 to 8 million plus the revenue if and when the land sales close. Yes, it'll pay for the buses.
It is the item related to the bus purchases, which is the 28 million under whatever that, what is it called?
Amendments and transfers.
That's the buses.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Are we okay with the general fund? All right. Going down further, the child nutrition fund. Again, we're 67% of the way through the year. We've collected 68% of the revenue, so we're right on target there. 17 million against a budget of 25. We've spent 64% of our expectations, spent 15, so we have a little surplus of $1.3 million. I need to remind the board and the public that we lost 2.5 months of feeding days, so the child nutrition fund will be interesting to look at as we come to the end of the fiscal year. The next section down is the debt service fund. We forecast 155 million in the third column from the left. We should receive that. We've paid 26 million in February, and you can remember we pay our debt service payments in February and August, so we haven't made the August payment yet. So it shows 131 million of surplus in the debt service fund. The August payment's about 111, so it should cover that with room to spare. Finally, near the bottom, capital projects funds, that's the unspent bond money. The amount of revenue there is just a little bit of interest earnings. So that concludes page 326. Are there any other questions I might be responsive to? All right, page 327 is just a summary of all the grants. If you go to the bottom of the 3 columns, you can see that we'd forecast nearly $40 million of revenue. We've spent 17, leaving 22, nearly 23 million unspent. Any questions on that page? These are the federal grants, local money as well in the bottom half. And the next, excuse me?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So can you explain, like the JROTC, I noticed that number was significantly low on expenditures to date. So, I mean, we're going to get this money and we're not going to use it, or, I mean.
That specifically I can't speak to exactly, but oftentimes when they plan their budgets, they will plan to spend it in a certain portion of the year. And that spring portion didn't occur because we were not in school. So they may not have had the opportunity to spend those funds like they would have liked to.
Yeah, so they're not going to lose those funds, I guess that's my point, correct? Or
I can't be responsive to that. I don't know the answer to that, but
we can research that, Ms. Cox. But that's money from the armed services, to pay for those junior ROTC programs. But I believe we will receive those funds. Those are funds for materials for those 5 programs at our 5 high schools. So. I think some of that probably is waiting to be used for the start of the next school year, but we'll research that.
So, Dr. Rogers, are you saying that they're going to be treated like the Title III funds?
Yes, I believe that's correct. But we'll make sure and we'll get you an answer.
The next page I'd like to call your attention to is page 330, the 08 bond. I'm not sure why that's in here. There's no money left there and hasn't had for a while. Let's look now at page 332. And that's the 17 bond that we're in the middle of right now. And so we have some dollars left over, and you're thinking, why, if we have dollars left over, do we have to issue new bonds? These are all allocated to projects, as are the funds contained in the new issue that we're considering this evening. So let me pause there and ask if there's any questions on the bond proceeds from the 17 authorization.
Mr. Miller is moving.
I don't have a question on that, actually, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little more about that in a bit, but I want to go back to the grants. I don't know that we've ever really keyed in on this, which I'm glad we did, but this is assuming, where does this is this sit in a separate fourth fund, basically? Or is it, well, M&O, INS, food, child nutrition, where's this revenue sitting in?
All the money's in the bank. And we segregate all the money. It's not in separate bank accounts.
It's not at Dr. Rogers' garage?
No, sir.
Okay.
It is absolutely not in my garage.
And it's not in mine either.
Is it coming in on the M&O side and coming through that as a revenue stream?
No. This is not M&O money. This is federal grant money. And it's funneled through the TEA to each school district in Texas.
Okay.
It is not M&O, it is not INS.
Okay, good, because we've never really keyed in on this. That's why I'm asking.
It's all specifically earmarked for very specific purposes. So that's the only thing that can be spent. And so we have people in Mr. Young's office and, of course, Dr. Courtney Hart with title funds that they monitor those funds, and that's all they do.
Yeah.
It's just those
So the
funds.
cash is all invested and earns interest, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but this is not M&O, this is not INS, this is completely separate, but the cash is all in the bank at the same place.
Is the intent
But
generally
it's
for
tracked
this?
individually.
Okay,
And each line item has their own rules on how to spend it and where to spend it.
got it. Is the intent generally for this money to be spent in the current year?
Of course, but there's under federal rules, you can carry 20% over to the following year.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Lastly, page 336. We're thrilled to report to the board near the bottom, the second line from the bottom, that we're earning almost 0.5% on our money. Good job. You'll notice that the average yield on 180-day Treasury is almost 17/100%. So this is the result of COVID-19 prompting the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates, which we talked about when we last met. This is a reflection of those remarkably low interest rates. So that's the essence of the monthly financial report. That's the numbers that you need to be aware of and watch as we go through the school year.
Thank you, Mr. Youngs. Okay, we will move on to our action items. Mr. Youngs, you are still up.
My privilege to stand before you and talk about refundings and new issue. I'll remind the board that some elements in the environment are happening that are creating an opportunity for us. Property value growth is one of those elements. The low interest rate environment we find ourselves in is contributing to this environment. The fact that we're paying off principal at the rate we are with 20-year amortization rates instead of 30 or 40, all those things work together to create capacity as we look for this next issue of the voter-authorized bonds that were authorized in 2017. I want to also remind the board that as we do these issues each year, that the funds actually overlap each other. There are funds allocated to certain projects that are in the bank and planned right now, and this next issue might overlap those, but these funds are already spoken for, and so are these in the next issue that we're contemplating this evening. So we have a refunding of non-PSF, and PSF is a permanent school fund, which is an agency of the state government that guarantees school bonds to investors. So that's $11.5 million. We were proposing to pay off $5 million of that and refinance $6.5 million for 5 more years, saving about $7 million in interest. We had a conversation as recently this afternoon about possibly paying the entire thing off. And so that's an issue for the board to consider. That would certainly be possible to do with the fund balance that is in the debt service fund. There's enough dollars there for us to pay this little piece of debt off entirely. Just pay the principal off and be done with it, not refinance it, not refund it. So that's definitely a possibility. And that's kind of a standalone refunding / pay off all the principal thing. Now, I want to remind the board, when we do a refunding, the district is not the beneficiary of any money. All we're doing is lowering the monthly payment, like you lower it when you refinance your mortgage. You don't get any money. You just have lower future debt service. That's all a refunding does for a school district. There's no net money to the school district. So the larger PSF is $30 million in principal, and we were going to pair the new money offering with that PSF refunding. And we had talked about 163 or 285, and the 163 is the amount that was originally contemplated, and that would raise the INS rate 1/3 of a cent. With this low interest rate environment, we discussed a week ago the possibility of issuing the remainder of the voter authorized bonds that were authorized in 2017, $285 million. That would raise the
Mr.
INS
Youngs,
rate.
I apologize to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
But I'm wondering if we shouldn't, because the first one is the refunding, if we shouldn't discuss that and decide what the board wants to do with that before we go on to the...
On the non-PSF?
Yeah.
Certainly. Let's stop there. The non-PSF is $11.5 million. We were going to pay off 5, refinance the 6.5. We can certainly discuss that.
Okay?
That is action item 1.
Yes.
So,
And I was waiting to see if he was tying that into a statement about that before I stopped. But yes, I realized we had gone past. Do we want to make a motion and then discuss, or would we like to discuss first, and then once discussion has ended, if somebody could make a motion, please?
I think it's an absolutely good idea to discuss. I would be afraid to accept a motion without our bond counsel writing because our bond counsel writes these motions, and so I would say that if that's what the board would like to do, then let's bring it back next week at your board workshop on board operating procedures and take that action next week. Mr. Martin, do you think that? I mean, because I want to make sure the language is correct. While it's absolutely a fine idea to do, I just hate to. But I'll defer to you as far as your input.
My thinking is that, Dr. Rogers, is that if the board were to decide is the question whether or not we're going to use our surplus cash to pay off the debt or issue debt. So if we're going to use the surplus, then there will be no debt, period. So you don't take action on the item and it goes away. So
they wouldn't need to take any action to say they want to use $11.5 million.
Or just vote no on it. Just vote against issuing bonds.
Oh, okay.
You could vote no on item 1.
Okay.
And then
just
with,
pay it.
With
and
the
then
understanding
just pay
we're
it
just
off.
going to defease like we did last year, like we did with the $5 million last year. We'll just defease and pay them off in August, and going down the road, we'll be able to take advantage of that in the cash flows of the new deal, of the new money, and be able to leverage the savings from you all using the cash to pay it off. But I don't think we'd have to come back next week, do you?
I'm not a bond counsel,
Okay.
so I...
Okay.
Is the item written by bond counsel as it is in front of us here?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
they provide the agenda language
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, so you're just saying if we vote no,
It goes
Then-
away because there won't be any debt
okay.
for that particular piece.
How do we make the second action occur then? Does the board have to take action to use the surplus money in fund balance?
That would be a motion that we would have to make.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Then it would probably be better to make them at the same time, rather than voting no. It looks cleaner if we do an action at the same time, rather than.
I think
and
that
that's
we
fine.
first need to decide whether or not we want to pay off the 2012.
Correct.
I'm all for it, by the way. I had a very nice discussion with Mr. Youngs about it this afternoon. So I'm all for doing that. I think that we need to have at least consensus as a board on that. If we then have to vote it down, she can ask for a motion and no one can make the motion and it dies. That's another option.
Right.
And then we would then make, we could do a budget amendment. We could do a budget amendment to pay correct? Please stop me.
I'm pretty sure we cannot do an action item without having it posted 72 hours beforehand.
Right,
So
right,
I-
no, not now.
No,
but
we're talking about
I'm sorry.
next week.
I'm sorry, Mr. Youngs, I'm talking about next week, that we
Yeah.
could then codify our discussion today with an action item next week when we're doing the board operating procedure. That particular meeting, we could have an action item to earmark the money
So-
I think
for the 2012B series.
So I think maybe this evening we just pull it and table it.
I think
and
that's
then-
absolutely right. There's no
I would
reason to
prefer
take
to
any.
do that, yes.
There's no reason to take any action even to vote it down, because we were trying to approve something that we don't want to approve. So I think we just get the language and add it to next week's board workshop to approve the use of bond surplus funds to do that.
Make a motion that we table the item.
A second.
Okay.
Thank you all.
I don't think you even
Well,
need,
so we got a motion second, well, we don't have to if Kevin, but I think Mr. Martin has,
pulled.
I'd like to hear what they would like to express here.
So, John, do you have anything else?
Well, I
you
was
need
just
to add?
making sure, because we've got the first draft of the offering document out there with a little bitty deal in there. I mean, it's a little bitty deal compared to the Series A, right? So I just want to make sure, so if we go back through our next draft of legal documents, do we get a head nod from everybody that we're more than likely not going to issue that Series 2020B, that standalone non-PSF deal?
I believe that is the head nod the board is giving you.
Maybe do we also then just go
That's
ahead
what
and
I'm hearing.
vote on this, and if it fails by a vote, then we know that we're going to go
But
the other
it's because
direction?
we're going to be, where I'm going with it is, we'll be having calls with S&P and Fitch with the rating agencies on Thursday, and we're going to need to tell them
Okay.
how much debt we're
let's
issuing.
just go ahead and do that. If we just vote on this and it fails, then that gives them direction. It becomes a matter of record, and Dr. Rogers doesn't have to take action, and we don't have to rescind, which can be,
I think that's
Can be
important.
confusing,
I
Mr.
think
Miller,
that's
I believe.
important only because they have calls with the rating agencies this Thursday, so.
Right.
I think that's a good.
I'll probably, I'm not doing it this second, but I'll probably withdraw my motion. My only hesitation is, when we vote this down tonight, that's final. So we're moving in another direction, which is dependent on another board action. So if anybody comes up with ideas or questions or anything in between time, we've defeated this. We have nothing, no flexibility at the next meeting. I'm for paying it off, but
On just the 2012B series.
Absolutely.
All right, I just want to.
just this
I
item
just
as
want
it's
to
written
narrow
here.
it down.
Just the item as
Mr.
it's
Miller,
written
just to
right
be
here.
clear, these bonds aren't actually, just the single standalone PSF piece, the larger issue, is not even going to market until like the 24th or 25th. So you've got time, if you want to reconsider next week, we'll put it back on the agenda, and we'll issue the little $5 million piece if you wanted to. So, but yes, I mean, it's not, this isn't necessarily your last lick at it.
Do I need to withdraw my motion to table?
yes,
it?
please.
I'll withdraw my motion to table.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Would someone like to make motion? Okay.
I move that the board approve the order authorizing the issuance and sale of the Lewisville Independent School District Unlimited Tax Refunding Bonds, Series 2020, as presented by administration.
Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett? Okay. All in favor? No one's in favor? Raise your hand. Or, right.
If
So
we vote
nobody
no-
in favor, right? Nobody's in favor. All opposed? Ms. Hassett, do I see your hand? Okay. Yes, okay, 0.
Just as a matter of record, make sure that it's very specific in the minutes. The purpose of voting it down is the board's desire would be to consider paying off the debt.
Correct.
So that the minutes reflect that. It's not that we don't think refunding is good. It's
Absolutely. Okay. So moving on, Mr. Youngs, to
So, Mr. Miller,
Item 2.
refunding is good, paying off is better.
Yes.
That's a great point, but that's why when some would look at what we just did, and they'd look at the item and they'd go, oh, they just denied doing a refunding, and that fundamentally is good. But we're denying that because our intent would be, nobody knows how everybody's going to vote, but to consider a payoff of debt, which is actually better for the taxpayers.
Absolutely, it's better.
Right.
It creates
Okay,
more
we're
capacity.
running center line.
So this next item is the PSF refunding, which has the PSF guarantee, and we'll couple this refunding with new money. And we're proposing the two alternatives, 163, which was the original amount discussed, and then the 285 to take advantage of the current low interest rate market environment that we find ourselves in. The INS rate would go up $0.015. Remember that $0.015 increase is happening inside of an environment where our M&O rate is being compressed, meaning shrunk, going the other way in at least 5 cents. So the $0.015 up, M&O rate going down 5 cents. That provides an opportunity to finance the remainder of the voter-authorized bonds that were authorized in 17, and that captures the remarkably low interest rates that we are currently in the middle of.
Okay. Are there any questions, or Ms. Hassett?
I do have a question, but really on the maximum compressed tax rate. What do you think at this point with your magical ball that our MCR will be come August when we have to?
Our INS rate should go down at least 5 cents, probably more, depending on the property value increase.
Yeah.
We're being told as recently as this week from the appraisal district, 14% growth. It's never that high. So we're using 8%.
8% rather than 10%?
We're using 8 in our financial projections to project revenue for next year, yes. If they come in at 9 or 10, then that's a little bit more. That'll create capacity in the INS side, and that'll create the opportunity to
Even
not
more?
go up the whole $0.015.
Right. Okay.
Is that making sense to all?
Yes.
Yeah, we feel we're being conservative on the 8%.
Yes, sir.
We feel that's a pretty good landing place, even though it's still a guess.
Okay. Ms. Hassan?
So, a little procedural question then here. So, we're here going to make a decision whether or not we're going to sell the 163 million or the 285.
If you go down the page, I can point this out to you. The recommended parameters are as follows. If you'll go down to there, and you can see the third bullet down. The aggregate original principal amount of the new bond shall not exceed 193 or 315. We'd be looking at the 315 if we're going to contemplate the 285.
Okay.
So there's still those two alternatives that the board has in front of itself. Am I being clear as mud?
You are. I guess I'm just not clear of where we're going to decide this.
I
Right
think
here,
in
right
the
now.
motion, whoever makes the motion, I think you need to say that as part of the motion.
Clarify. Correct.
Which, the remaining full amount of bonds left to sell, or 163 million.
Ms. Cox?
Is this something that we're going to have to refer to bond counsel then again?
No, this was written by bond counsel.
Okay.
Ms. Cox?
Mr. Youngs, if we sell all the bonds, what would be the long-term savings to the district?
That's a good question. We did the arithmetic that if we did the 285 now, we did the math on the interest that we would expend over the 20-year amortization. If we waited a year and we did the 285 a year from now and interest rates went up 1.5 points, the interest expense on that debt service is $50 million more than if we did it today.
Ms. Sells, I have another question.
Yes, Ms. Hassett.
And we also save on the cost of issuance for the latter two bonds that we.
All the costs associated with another issuance a year from now, all of the ratings calls, bond counsel, all those expenses would be incurred this one time instead of twice.
Right. And Dr. Rogers, you had said that we could expedite the latter projects if we have the money in the bank to do so?
I think that was absolutely something that we said we could certainly try.
Okay.
Dr. Rogers, to piggyback on Ms. Hassett's point, if the board approves the full amount, will we be having those discussions with our contractors sooner rather than later for their capacity?
Yeah, I think first off, we'd start with Mr. Fide and his group and sort of see, what he feels is doable. I think the capacity issue is a major item to look at, but then he would present to the board what he feels is doable, and we'd go from there.
Are there any other questions, Mr. Miller?
Bear with me for a second, please. So I went into this very concerned about anything that would increase the tax rate. And Mr. Young and I met on this today, and it's no surprise to anybody. I think we all do, try and just put ourselves in the position of an average homeowner that gets a tax bill. And the fact is, even in the pre-tax bills, they're higher than last year's bill, and we can talk in technical terms about the compressed rate being 5 cents less and that type of thing. At the end of the day, the tax rate, which is based on the valuation, currently at 14 or 16% or whatever it is, will cause people to pay more in taxes. Even if we made some great strides in reducing our tax rate, it's likely that people would pay more taxes in real cash.
If I may respond, the school district tax rate this fall will be going down.
The values go up, which
Okay.
causes them to.
Yeah, so
The values may well go up.
That's the point I'm making, that just for people that are observing what we're doing here, because this is a little bit different than sometimes in the past. We're not setting the tax rate, but this is going to obligate us to certain outcomes in August. And so I'm just suggesting this, given some of the tone around this from the legislature and certain legislative members of legislative delegation across the state, where they're basically saying property taxes are zero until the locals apply a tax rate. That is not what essentially is inferred, implicit, not explicit, within Article 8 of the Constitution under taxation and revenue. So school districts pivot from property values. We don't set the valuation, we set the tax rate. There is no doubt that the M&O tax rate, the first fund you talked about in the earlier report, will be compressed at least 5 cents. But to be clear, we may take a penny of that back, and we may increase the tax rate based on this commitment tonight by a penny and a half. That's 2.5. That means that the voters may think they're going to get a 5-cent compression, but they're not. They're probably going to get a half. And I'm not saying it's wrong, because I have to go then to the $50 million savings that you mentioned if we do the full refunding, and that's a material amount of money. And what I've struggled with, as you know, is should the government sit on people's money for a period of time just to save money over the long run? And I think in this, and kudos to you for actually responding to my questions from last week, by the way, proactively, it makes sense to do the full refunding, save $50 million, which will effectively save people real money, but the general public will get wrapped up in tax rate and real taxes. And so they may get a little bit of tax rate relief at the end of the day, 2.5%, 3.5%, but we are actually saving the district money, a significant amount of money long term.
So hopefully our conversation this evening will bring a little clarity to that issue.
Exactly. So with that, I think then, different than my position last week, even though we will sit on some of this money for a while, that it would make sense to take advantage of that $50 million savings.
Yes,
now,
sir.
there's another piece here that I think somebody asked this question last week, and that is that in the out year, which the difference between 163 and the 285 or 315, because is it 285 or 315?
John, help me out with the 315. Okay. So the new money would be 285, including the refunding. It gets us up to 315.
Okay, so the 315, we will save $50 million for the district over.
As opposed to the hypothetical of waiting a year and having interest rates go up 1.5% in that interim. Yes.
And one of the questions that was asked by somebody last week was, when we did the bond prospectus and we forecasted 5 years out, 6 years out, we put inflationary costs into those out years. So in the event that we are able to accelerate projects, if that were practical, that's up to you guys. We may have a little bit of savings in those projects because we're accelerating a year, year and a half, et cetera, correct?
That is correct. And if you'll remember, when we forecasted to the public the bond election in 2017, we were talking INS rates in the low 40s.
Yeah.
We're talking INS rates in the high 30s. We're still not into 40.
Yes.
Which we had talked to the public about in 2017.
Yep.
And Mr. Fike, can you remind me when we did the bond discussions and the election of 2017, what was the factor we built in for inflation each year? Was it 8% or 10%? I'm just checking to make sure you're still awake, too.
Yes, sir. I'm still here. So it varied. I believe in the first year it was 10%, and then it went to 9, and then I think it went down to 8 in the latter years. I'll verify that, but I know it was a variable rate that went down as the bond went up.
I think the point, though, is to verify what Mr. Miller asked, and that is, if we can move up some of the projects, you are saving, 7 to 8% on the projects, which are millions of dollars each project. So, I mean, that is sizable savings in addition to the other things that you would save.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Hassett?
Do you have one more question? So we are projecting that we might close on some of the land sales in the summer.
Yes.
So could we then take an amount of $20 million and reduce the bond sale $20 million and use that proceeds of the land?
That would be up for the board to discuss and to decide.
I think it would be a great way to reduce bond debt.
And I think, first off, as we've discussed, certainly the board will ultimately get to decide what to do once those land sales close. And those are items up for discussion, and I promise you will be on the agenda in August once we get closer to that.
So that's not clear to me. Once we do this bond sale, it's not like our mortgage where we can pay it off early.
No.
The only opportunity we have to refi any balance going forward, because we're selling it all, is at 10 years.
But we have calls, I showed you this afternoon,
Yeah.
we have calls every summer for the next 3 or 4 years.
So in those calls, we could use some of those. I don't support that action, by the way, as Ms. Hassett knows, but you're saying in those calls that you outlined here.
That's an opportunity to pay down additional principal if the board were to so decide.
Yeah.
Just like the board is considering that $30 million for the refunding, those are callable things that Mr. Martin's brought in front of us, and he'll do that. He's done that every year when there are callable bonds that are available to refund.
Are there any other questions or comments? Would somebody like to bring a motion at this time then?
$315,675.
$315,675.
$315,675,000.
Not to exceed.
No, 3.5%, and for sure we'll be below that. That's the parameter, is 3.5.
That's presented by administration, so.
No, I know. I want this to be for public. The parameter is 3.5%?
You can see the parameters, and so we anticipate an all-in total interest cost much less than 3.5%, but that's the parameter.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Correct.
So the tick rate is, we're going to set a number, a target of 3.5%. That's our parameter. You guys will do a great job and get something lower, which then allows us to have some flexibility in our discussions in August.
We appreciate your confidence.
Okay, I do, actually. But I need to remind you of this. Never has the bond market increased year over year the way that we thought. Okay? Okay, where should I add the 315, 675?
To not ex,
Okay.
to not.
All right. I move that the board approve the order authorizing the issuance and sale of the Lewisville Independent School District unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds, Series 2020, not to exceed $315,675,000 as presented by administration.
Correct. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. All in favor, if you would raise your hand and I'll take note. The motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Yes. And Mr.
Can I ask one question really
Yes.
quick? Just to, now that we voted, even though if we don't do a refunding, is it still a unlimited tax school?
That's on the different series.
I don't understand the question.
It's still a refunding.
It includes the refunding.
But if we don't do the refunding, if we pay
It's
it
a
out.
different refunding that we were talking about.
But
remember?
Ms. Hassett,
The
no.
small one is still
Yes.
included. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Two different refundings.
Yes.
One was PSF and
And
one was non.
the non-PSF is still included.
No, that's off
Regular
the table.
PSF.
Yes.
The non-PSF is off the table,
So the regular PSF is still included.
is part of this.
Okay, right. I just wanted to make.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Youngs, you're still up.
Fasten your seatbelts. This is not as exciting. This action item relates to the board policy and fund balance, and as it was written a year ago and approved by the board, it inadvertently included campus activity funds, which it should not have. So the only revision to the fund balance policy is excluding campus activity funds, and so that's the modification this year that's being presented for your consideration.
Do we have any questions or comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
Well, and that's approximately $10 million? I'll make a motion, unless. I move that the board approve the amended and renewed resolutions related to the minimum fund balance as recommended by administration.
I'm going to turn to my left and look for a second. Ms. Hassett, thank you. All in favor, if you'd raise your hands and I'll take note. Motion carries 6-0. Dr. Rapp, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Youngs.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Feels a little humdrum following all that, but I'm going to do my best. So this item is about House Bill 3 board outcome goals. We talked about this previously, so this is just bringing before you all the campus goals that are required by House Bill 3. Of course, this is the first time that something like this has been required. They were to set specific quantifiable annual goals for 5 years at each campus in the areas of third grade math, reading, and CCMR. And so we're presenting all the campus goals along with the board goals for your consideration and adoption. And Dr. Fitzhugh is still on the line, and I'm confident she's awake if there are any questions.
Perfect. Do we have any questions or comments before someone makes the motion? Ms. Prosnick.
I do have a question on the reading and math assessment. Will that just be beginning of year and end of year, or will there be a mid-year for all students?
I'm going to ask Dr. Fitzhugh about the data included in the goal here.
So the goal's written based on end of year data, but we will be monitoring it throughout the year.
So we have not set the elementary assessment calendar for this coming school year. Of course, we'll have the beginning and the end, and then we recommend a middle of year time frame.
So I guess what I'm asking, since this is part of our goals and for our thing, is that we, as a board, be updated well, of course, after that first assessment and that middle of year assessment's done, so that we can see, we're not just surprised, if you will, by the end of year data.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mrs. Prosnick, I'm including something in the BOP to that regard, just a FYI.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Would someone like to make the motion? Ms. Prosnick?
I move that the board adopt House Bill 3 goals as presented by administration.
Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett? All in favor, if you would vote, I'll take note. Motion carries 6-0. Dr. Rapp, you're up again.
Yes, so the recommendation here is the adoption of the waiver that would allow us to continue to use iStation instead of the TextKia. TEA is allowing this waiver because they realize that there may be disruptions to schooling, and implementing the TextKia as they originally had planned may be challenging for school districts. So we would like to continue with iStation for next school year for kindergarten, and that's what this waiver allows us to do, and it would not require us to then have new training for our teachers this summer.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments? If not, if someone would make the motion. Ms. Cox?
I move that the board approve the alternate kindergarten reading instrument waiver for school year 2020-2021 as recommended by administration.
Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Lasan. All in favor, if you'd raise your hand, I'll take note. Motion carries 6-0. Dr. Rogers?
This is an annual thing where the board, because we do not have a board meeting after Wednesday as far as called board meeting, that you grant the superintendent authority to hire professional employment positions until the next regularly scheduled board meeting, which is in August. So this is a thing you do every year.
Would someone like to make the motion, or are there questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Lasan?
I move that the board approve granting authority to the superintendent to hire professional employment positions effective June 9th, 2020 until the August regular board meeting as recommended by administration.
And I saw Ms. Hassett's hand also go up. Would you like to second that motion? Thank you. All in favor, if you would raise your hands and I'll take note. Motion carries 6-0.
Miss Hassett, I did not raise my hand.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I saw your hand up. I thought I did. I'm sorry. All opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-1. Okay, thank you so much for making that note. I feel like my neck has gotten a workout tonight, and I apologize. If there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned. The time is now 9:22 p.m.